Welcome to the Creative Finance Playbook, where we'll show you how to buy property without banks or credit using creative finance strategies. Join your hosts, Jenn and Joe Delafave, as we embark on a thrilling journey to financial freedom through real estate. With our expert advice and insider tips, you'll learn how to build wealth and achieve your dreams. So tune in and get ready to take control of your financial future.
Welcome back to the Creative Finance Playbook podcast. I'm Jenn Delafave, and as a full-time real estate investor and homeschooling mom, my days are anything but ordinary. In today's episode, I'm pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to juggle homeschooling 2 kids while scaling a thriving real estate business. I'll share how I prioritize family without sacrificing growth, the systems and strategies that keep me sane, and the surprising lessons my kids are teaching me every single day. So if you've ever felt like there's not enough time in the day, this one's for you. So here we go. All right, so let's talk about my day in the life. And I will preface this by saying I love a quiet morning. So I do believe that in order to have a great week, to have a great month, a great year, and even a great day, I think you need to take some time and plan. I think you need to set some time aside and get quiet, which isn't easy, especially with kids and businesses and all the things. I totally understand. But I carve that time out. So right now I'm setting my alarm at 6 a.m. I'm an early bird by nature anyway, but I make sure that I'm up. And I kind of have my little routine for myself that I like to do. And then right now, I've got both kids logging into a Google Doc. That's right. Not only do I organize all of my team members on Asana or other task management systems, I've got the kids both using Google Docs. And this is something we started last year. So I have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're pretty tech savvy. And I just felt like it was a great way to communicate on some of the independent work that I can have them do, as well as kind of keep myself on track of, what is it that we're trying to accomplish for the day or the week. And, I just love it. I think it's a really simple way to do it. So I try every week, usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, to kind of pull out our materials. So when it comes to homeschooling, that could probably be a bunch of different episodes. There's so many great YouTubers out there and a lot of content creators that can, go down all the different curriculum rabbit holes. But just so I can kind of share a little bit with you guys, for us, we kind of hodgepodge a bit. There's a lot of different curriculums that can get pretty pricey out there as well. So we found some that really work well for the kids, but with homeschooling, you just have to adapt as well. And I can kind of share some of that with you, what's currently happening in our homeschooling. So right now I'm loving the curriculum Moving Beyond the Page. And they have ELA, so English literature, and they have a science unit, and they have history. And so we really love reading books together, my son and my daughter and I. I think because I was an English teacher before this, I taught public school for 8 years. So there's a part of me, I just can't let that go. So we've been reading some really great books together. And as you know, if you're a reader, books lead to so many wonderful discussions, and the kids really enjoy reading and, kind of falling down the little rabbit trails, they call it. And you can kind of learn about different things that pop up in the books. So we have a book that we're reading, and then based on whatever science curriculum I've picked out. So currently we're doing magnetic and electricity. So the kids are having so much fun with magnets and in the repelling and the attracting and all that kind of stuff. So some of the stuff we do together, and I'll lay that out in the Google Docs for them. And I set things up on the table. And I think the number one thing, just to preface, I am a bit of a perfectionist. I like order. I like things neat and tidy. But when you run your businesses and you homeschool out of your house, you have to be okay with a little bit of an organized chaos, I like to call it. So we have, shelves and bins and stuff like that. But, the kids' schooling is either happening, on the kitchen table, a little bit in their rooms, or sometimes it's outside. But just kind of knowing that education can take place anywhere. So it's just really important to kind of know that Instagram perfection isn't reality. And even I have to remind myself of that. Like a little snapshot of a photo is not showing you the whole scene. So if you have little ones at home, embrace it. Obviously, it's a season, and with homeschooling, it's just that too. So the kids have their Google Docs, they check them. Some of the stuff they can do independently. There's some online programs that I like to have them kind of check in and watch some videos and kind of work through that. They're currently doing a Spanish class on Me Academy. So that's kind of cool. They just kind of dabbled in that, but you can make it whatever you want it to be, depending on your state's regulations and whatnot. And we currently live in Florida. So I've now homeschooled in both New York State and Florida. And Florida is by far way more lax. They have a portfolio that they check at the end of the year, that you sit down with a curriculum evaluator, and she kind of just walks through to make sure that you've been teaching your kids that and that kind of thing. And so we have all of our papers and projects, and I kind of take notes of everything. But I think that routines are really, really great. But I have to say that we don't have a strict schedule, and I think that it works best for us that way. It's not like, a public school where you start school at 7:30 and you're done by 3 o'clock, and the bus takes you home and you don't get home until 4:30. It's not like that with homeschooling. When they were a little bit younger, homeschool didn't take as long as it takes now. Now that we're reading longer books and the kids have more to learn, things kind of, they add each grade level. So again, fourth and sixth grade, there's more that they have to do. And so that's been a little bit of a learning curve, I'd say, for us this year. Is just my presence is how can I get them to be a little bit more independent, but also support them and make sure that we're covering all that I want to. So how do I balance my personal time? In the morning, I definitely try to get a workout, a walk, and just making sure that things are prepped for the day. Now, I will say that at this point in our businesses and where we're at in life, I know I am so fortunate to be able to have hired a house assistant or a house manager, whatever you want to call her. She is literally my angel. So it's somebody where I feel like even in 2020, when we went full time, I really could have used some extra help. But ladies and gentlemen, you can't do everything. And no matter how hard you try, at the end of the day, you can only do so many things really well. And as I've grown as a businesswoman and a homeschooling mom, I know I've learned that my zone of genius is, in certain areas. And yes, I can fold laundry and I can make my meals and take the kids to every meetup. But I can't also do that and build businesses and be present for my teams and put out the type of content like this right now, right? So it's really important to know where your time should be spent. So time auditing is huge with me. I try to really keep an eye on my calendar, where are my minutes going during my days, and time blocking has really, really been beneficial. I'm also playing around with my calendar a little bit, like what days am I recording on? Do I have to be all dialed up with makeup versus when can I just have the messy bun and get stuff done days, right? Where the kids and I are curled up reading Witch of Blackbird Pond and we're going over some questions together and so on and so forth. So just know that, there's different days and they're going to look different every day. Like no 2 days are ever the same around here. And then really juggling it all, you just don't. You just don't. Like you have to hire help. So when we first started investing in real estate, for us, it was every Friday. We hired a babysitter or nanny. She came over to our house. And since Friday was Joe's days off from the dealership, she would come over probably around 10 or 11 a.m. And then him and I would leave. We would go maybe check on some properties. We'd go out to lunch. Like we'd, enjoy our time together, but we were truly working. We would have our mentoring call. And so just knowing that we had to pay someone to help us back then, I think that every step of the way, you have to look at what can you do and what can you delegate. So I would say do, ditch, delegate. That's like one of my favorite things to stop and kind of, reset, whether it's every quarter or twice a year, but what can you be doing? What can you ditch? Like just stop doing it. It's not benefiting you from anything? And then what can you delegate out? And so, childcare for a little bit here and there is helpful. And so this is since I think August, we had hired Kayla is her name currently. She is with us and she is just fantastic. She does the grocery shopping. She helps with meal prep. She helps get the kids to and from any meetups or upcoming orthodontist appointments that my daughter's going to get braces. So just having someone that can go and sit with her and wait, it costs money, and it did take me a little while, to be completely transparent, to be okay to let go of some of these things that, like, I of course would love to take her to every single appointment, but there's just things that you have to make sure that you can get done. So you have 24 hours in a day. Really take a minute and audit your time and see where it's going. And of course, with that too, like, I delegate a lot to team members, so I'm constantly reevaluating who on my team is doing what. I have to catch myself from micromanaging. That's something I'm working on. Like, when you hire someone, you need to let them do their job. And 80% done is 100% better than me doing it. And I think that's Dan Martell. I'm reading his Buy Back Your Time book right now. And that was really, really key for me. So just knowing that you've got, virtual assistants, you've got executive assistants that you can hire, you've got people who can help you sort your mail, file your papers, walk your dog, Instacart. So all of these things, they add up, right? So time is always the number one thing I think that stops people. And so if you're looking to manage your time better, definitely check out Dan's book, Buy Back Your Time. That's been really, really great for me right now. And you just audit yourself, catch yourself. What are you doing with your time and how can you get better with it? And then from there, just knowing that you need to be flexible. And there are some days where, we're work heavy, I would say, where, oh my gosh, it's back-to-back meetings, Zoom calls, podcasts, coaching, support calls, all things happening in the business. And the kids do a little bit more independent work. Maybe they're watching some more videos and then it flops. And then the next day it's like light on the meetings and all of that. And I'm heavy, it's like mommy and me time. And we're really working through some of the school stuff that we need to get done. And I think, just to get a little bit more personal, as far as, helping your kids, like why we love homeschooling for so many reasons. And I think one of the reasons is like, if your child is needing a little extra help, you can pivot and find things to help them. And you're going to notice it like almost right away. So right now we're working on multiplication with our youngest. And obviously it can be a little bit hard for some people when you're first learning a new skill. And so instead of just like hoping for the best and sending them out the door, I'm able to grab a couple extra materials, slow down, and really make sure you dive in and understand that, like, he learns a little bit differently than maybe his sister did. And so how can I best support him? And really it comes back to like trying to have fun with it. We're huge on real life experiences, obviously, like math, science, social studies, history, art, music, moving their bodies, physical education. It's all very, very important. But part of their curriculum too is working with us and our team, and the kids love it. They get into our CRM, they chat back and forth with sellers. My daughter knows how to like pull up Zillow and check and see if a house was sold and remove them. So I think that, having that flexibility and freedom is really, truly a blessing. And, not many people realize that you can do that. So, we've got a couple things planned here to wrap up the year, but in the new year, I definitely want to start focusing on maybe reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad a little bit more in depth altogether. We're going to be maybe looking at some more like Think and Grow Rich concepts. So, the kids, they listen. Your kids are sponges. They're going to learn and be a part of like everything that's going on. And when you can slow down and have these real life conversations, I really think that they're going to pay off. Like there's some like vocabulary that our son says, and we're like, where did he even learn that? Like the other day he was talking about entity structuring and LLCs and, what is that exactly for, Mom? Like what 9-year-old? I know I didn't even know what an LLC was or an entity, but, they're curious. They want to know. And so I think that that's really cool. And everyone always asks, like, well, how do you get your kids involved in your business? And like, well, that's an easy one. They've just always been a part of it. So other than the Fridays where we'd hire the sitter to go like work with our mentor and, kind of just be Joe and I time, if it was a Sunday and we had to go put mulch down at a property that we were going to put a renter in, or we had to check on the contractor's work, the kids have come with us and they've always been a part of that journey. And in 2020, when the world shut down and we pivoted and turned this into a full-fledged business, the kids were there. We were all in it together, right? We all were in that house. And so I don't even think Bradley could read yet. And so I think I had like a smiley face or like a green card on the door. And that meant that like they could come in. We weren't recording, but if we were on seller calls or going live on our Facebook business pages, there was a red kind of like, don't come in. So, you can have conversations and train them. And it's just really important to remember that like you're in control, like you can create whatever life that you want, and definitely important. And so with that, we always prioritize what really matters. And I think that this is a tough one for me sometimes, comparing myself to where other people can be. And, there's this whole notion of like, oh, well, is somebody more successful? Is somebody more wealthy? And the truth of the matter is like, you have to figure out what does success mean to you? And Joe and I are very, very firm believers that we can grow our businesses and we can, definitely gain more wealth, but we don't have to do it at the expense of our relationships with our children. And we sometimes I have to remind myself, like, it's okay. It's okay that, I'm not at every single conference or going to every single meetup or working like 24/7 in my business. I have two wonderful, beautiful children that mean the most. And we are the most proud of like the four of us being a family. And, aside from being healthy and happy, we want everybody to just enjoy each other. And so, we've been building in more time, and it doesn't go unnoticed, the quiet breakfasts where nobody's rushing out the door to catch a bus or, going off to work in a tizzy. There's plenty of mornings where I would make an egg for Joe and he didn't have time to eat it. Or, tears are starting to form because my daughter is dragging her taking her sweet time and, almost missing the bus. So I don't miss those crazy moments. And so now it's being able to have more quiet mornings, lunches all together. We just took the kids to a football game, which was just fantastic. And also, just taking that time, knowing to know when to say no. Kind of a mouthful there, but knowing when to say no is really important too. You can't be everywhere at once. So figure out, so you don't get burned out, what aligns with your goals and what do you need to, just, it's not right now. It doesn't mean forever, but it's a no right now. And then, you know, just things that the kids constantly remind you of when you're, this close. It's so tricky, right? Like your mind's going a million miles an hour. You've got deadlines and team projects and all the stuff happening. And last week, Bradley came running to me, and one of the online programs he likes to watch these videos is Brain Pop. And he comes running out and he's so excited. And he's like, Mom, I'm learning about run-on sentences. And I'm like, okay, buddy. And it took me a minute because I had just come in the door with, I don't even know, I had a handful of groceries or something. And I realized, wow, like it was clicking, right? Like we had a run-on sentence lesson like a couple weeks ago, and he was practicing what it meant to be a run-on or an incomplete sentence, a fragment. And those little aha moments. And the same thing happened with the magnets the other day. And it's just these cool aha moments with their education. And then also like even when my daughter was pulling up Zillow in front of me, right? Like she just teaches me so much. And it's just incredible to be able to see, to stay resilient, to know that, lessons are happening all around us. So it could happen at the dinner table when we're talking about, struggles of the team or things that are happening, or, somebody who's just not a good fit for us to all be working together. It's all a learning process and the kids are definitely a part of it. So we're all about using real life scenarios to help them with their entrepreneurial skills, and just encouraging them like the value of $1 and working for it. And what that all means is, nothing's just given to anybody. It's really important to be aware of how much things cost. And I think the biggest thing of all is just that, like, focusing on what's controllable and being present. And, our kids teach us that because they are in the moment. And, nothing's worse than you're nodding your head, yeah, okay. And then you realize you're not paying attention. So putting the phones down, being present, and staying focused is definitely important. I've learned to take off notifications on my Apple Watch. That was a huge thing. My birthday, so that was in July. I did that. I just couldn't handle the constant dinging of that. I'm really learning to set boundaries so that when I'm with the kids teaching, I'm with the kids teaching. And that if I'm recording a podcast, I'm recording a podcast, right? Because otherwise I was finding my stress levels really getting up there when I'm trying to do one thing, and then there's 5 other things like trying to get my attention as well. So just remember, we're human. There's always room to get better and grow, and you're not alone if you're feeling like a little bit overwhelmed. But I always try to get quiet and figure out what is the next right step. So overall, I definitely say, like, my biggest tip of all is just embrace the imperfection. Done is better than perfect. And then that is a hard one for me. I'm not going to lie. There are so many times where I'm like, oh, I just want it to be perfect. But sometimes perfect doesn't happen because you don't have the time, so you just give it your all, give it your best, and it's okay. And, if you're delegating 80%, right? That person that's going to pick up whatever job that you're passing off to them, train them your best. And then, 80% is fantastic, and just be okay with that. And build a support system around you, whether it's somebody that is a family member. If you have that luxury, that's great, and most people don't. So for us, we just factor it right in. We hire the help when needed, and really, truly celebrating every single win along the way. So you got to stay motivated. You have to count your wins, no matter how big or how small. You want to stay positive and, talk through things. We've just had an incredibly, I would say, rocky October, in the sense that here where we live in Bradenton, Florida, we had 2 pretty big hurricanes come through. So between that, and I had traveled a lot in September, it's just, you just keep going. You just pick up the next day where you can, and you can hodgepodge, like I said, with different materials. Libraries are one of our favorites. So invest in a library card and definitely get as many books as you possibly can. There's so many great resources out there. I'd be more than happy to dive in further on more of the stuff that we do. But, I think that communication, giving yourself grace, and Google Docs, that's definitely the way that we stay organized. And then, of course, I use my Google Calendar to make sure things get done. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Let me know if you like this kind of content. I'd be more than happy to share more about kind of the behind the scenes, day in the life. I know this wasn't all real estate and analyzing deals, but quite honestly, that's more of my husband's lane anyway, as far as analyzing and talking to sellers. I am operations, and I make the stuff happen behind the scenes. So, I think it's important to hear, how do people do it? And when I hear that, oh, she hasn't gone into a grocery store in a year, and she has someone come to her house to clean every week, or, the hairdresser comes to her, it's because high-powered achievers, again, they value their time. And that's what it is all about, is delegating and finding what your zone of genius is and where you truly want to be spending your time, because that matters too. And for me right now, it's homeschooling our beautiful children. And, we're definitely gearing up to do some, what I would like to call, world schooling in the near future. So I'd love to share more on those adventures as they come out. But thanks so much for listening, and give us a review if you haven't yet over on Apple and Spotify. And be sure to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Have a great day, everybody.